The advent of Kickstarter in 2009 ushered in a new era of community support and patronage. Everything from inventions to expensive surgeries can be crowdfunded from anonymous donors online. And the company is more profitable than ever. Since its inception, Kickstarter has raised over $3.3 billion. But a successful online campaign doesn't guarantee a company will flourish in the real world. From backpacks to card games and coolers, we're exploring the biggest Kickstarter projects and where they are now. The Fidget Cube. The Fidget Cube was first conceived in 2016 by Colorado brothers Matthew and Mark McLaughlin. They founded a small inventing operation called Ouya Labs and pitched their friends and family on a device that was intended to soothe those with a tendency to fidget. The Fidget Cube had a simple design and a whole host of different tactile features on each side, letting you absent-mindedly spin, click, roll, or rub the tiny interactive toggles. The brothers described their own need for the cube. We both have a hard time sitting while working. When we're brainstorming, working through a project, or just on a phone call, we almost always are moving around and playing with things at our desks. When we recognized this, we checked out what tools were available for fidgeting, and we couldn't find any that we'd feel truly comfortable using in a professional setting. And so, the Fidget Cube was born. It became a massive success, earning more than $6.46 million in just a few months. It seemed that the public craved an outlet for their nervous energy, but unfortunately for the investors, the company missed a series of promised delivery dates. During this time, other opportunistic copycat companies completed their designs first, effectively rendering the Fidget Cube useless. Though delays are expected with most Kickstarter projects, deliveries for Fidget Cube dragged on for months. Of course, in the following year, a much more popular fidget product came to prominence. After fidget spinners flooded the market, Fidget Cube seemed like a long shot at best. With thousands of dismayed supporters, the McLaughlins had a PR disaster on their hands. However, Ouya Labs is still up and running, selling Fidget Cubes and new inventions to the masses. The Everyday Backpack. On the surface, the Everyday Backpack by Peak Design is a simple, sleek, monochrome pack. But for whatever reason, when the Kickstarter went live in late 2016, the public was ravenous. In just a few short months, 26,000 supporters pledged more than $6.56 million for the piece of outdoor gear. And it's easy to understand why. The Everyday Backpack has a series of pockets and secret compartments that are naturally engineered into the layout of the bag. This makes it perfect for photographers, hikers, and stargazers. Most of Peak's design bags are hovering around the $200 price point, so they're not cheap. But for a durable, versatile backpack, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better option. And the company came from relatively humble beginnings. In 2010, a fresh-faced Minnesota-born man named Peter Daring went on a 4-month trip around the world. During his trip, he learned that carrying a DSLR camera is a major inconvenience. He returned to his San Francisco apartment and did what any responsible person would do: quit his steady job and spend 10 months designing a bag specifically for carrying cameras. The first bag became available on Kickstarter in 2011, and the rest is history. Peak Design is now one of the fastest growing names in outdoor gear, and they're only getting started. Ouya. Ouya was a record-breaking Kickstarter project that raised its funding goal within 8 hours. After meeting the goal, they still supported pre-orders through their Kickstarter project for $99 per console. They raised $8.5 million through Kickstarter and eventually released a retail version of the Ouya console. Needless to say, the console was extremely popular. Much cheaper than its competitors and compatible with any Android phone. The Ouya was a brilliant idea, but it turns out there's a reason that Nintendo and PlayStation spend millions of dollars on research, development, and design. Making a technologically sound gaming system with a wide variety of options is extremely difficult, and the Ouya sputtered in the first years after its release. The most substantial issue is that most game developers were working for mobile games or traditional console games, and few wanted to risk the new frontier of the Ouya. As a result, the founders eventually sold the company and hardware assets to the game hardware company Razer, who folded the system into the Razer Forge TV. Elements of the Ouya are still available in Razer products, but most of the technology has been phased out completely. Exploding Kittens. A rather unlikely record holder, Exploding Kittens earned dozens of Kickstarter superlatives in the first months. Modeled after the success of Cards Against Humanity, online comic artists Elon Lee and Matthew Inman used their pre-existing fanbase to score one of the biggest crowdfunding projects in history. Their reasonable goal of $10,000 was met in only 10 minutes, and in the next week, they gained more than 103,000 backers, easily the most in Kickstarter history. Fast forward 1 month, the company had twice as many backers and a whopping $8.78 million in expendable income. The gameplay goes like this. Players take turns drawing from a deck of cards until someone draws a kitten and, you guessed it, explodes. But they can also strategically deflect the kittens onto opponents or defuse them with things like laser pointers and catnip sandwiches, or using the power of a unicorn enchilada, and tap selected cards like the Takeo cat to activate special powers. Harnessing the power of random humor and good business tactics, Lee and Inman delivered on their promises within a few months. Since then, they have introduced a series of expansion packs. Exploding Kittens remains a best-selling game, and its founders are millionaires many times over. Balbo. The Balbo combines fashion, function, and fun all into one convenient package. It's flush with features like an iPad pocket, a face mask, earphone holders, passport pocket, and a neck pillow built into the hood. It's billed as a travel jacket, and its founders wanted to make a piece of clothing that was custom designed to make air travel easier. The founders, who moved to the US from India a little more than 4 years ago, initially hoped to raise $20,000. The jacket was a simple solution to a problem they faced, as a long-distance couple living in Chicago and the Bay Area. They wanted to make one aspect of travel a little less inconvenient. Every time I would fly, I liked to catch up on some sleep, says co-founder Hiral Sanghavi. I had this bad habit of forgetting neck pillows at home, and I ended up buying a new pillow every time at the airport. Eventually, we ended up accumulating a dozen pillows. My wife was like, "This has got to stop." Sanghavi turned down a summer internship at Apple to work on the campaign. Shortly after it launched, a couple of $1 million in, his wife quit her job to work on the jacket full-time. The couple had earned $9.2 million on Kickstarter and around $2.3 million on Indiegogo, making it one of the most supported crowdfunding projects in history. Though a series of copycat designs appeared on the market, Balbo still has brand recognition and remains a multi-million-dollar clothing company. Kingdom Death. In 2008, Adam Poots was at jury duty, bored out of his mind. He turned to a rulebook for a role-playing game to battle his boredom and was struck with a momentous idea. He felt that he could simplify and improve the gameplay and create an aesthetically enjoyable board game using unique figurines. The first figurine took years of his life, $10,000 of his own money, and $1,700 from Kickstarter to get off the ground. But once he found a design he liked, he found a manufacturer in Europe who could make them for much cheaper. But it was still years before Poots managed to find success for his game. He had failed a Kickstarter for an iOS app in 2010 and decided to refocus on his board game characters. His first iteration of Kingdom Death earned more than $2 million. After this, the game became extremely popular through word of mouth, and when Poots released the sequel in 2016, the game earned nearly $12.4 million pledged from 19,264 backers. At its conclusion, Kingdom Death Monster was the highest-earning game-related project funded through Kickstarter to that point. Since then, Poots has spun off different games and a series of expansions, making Kingdom Death one of the most profitable game franchises in recent history. Coolest Cooler. The Coolest Cooler is one of the most pragmatic projects in the history of Kickstarter, yet it has a reputation as one of the biggest disasters in the history of the site. As a product designer in Oregon, Ryan Grepper has a good idea of what products the public desired. In 2014, he used this knowledge to create an all-in-one cooler with a host of wild features. Among other things, his Coolest Cooler blends drinks, pops open bottles, pulls out wine corks, plays music, charges devices via USB, has a paring knife and plastic plates, rolls on beach-ready wheels, and holds a center divider that doubles as a cutting board. But unsurprisingly, such an advanced device is difficult to engineer in an efficient way. Grepper made the price tag reflect this, charging almost $200 for each device. This didn't deter the public from snapping them up. The company raised more than $13 million through Kickstarter in just 3 months. But the company ran into some production problems that persist to this day. Of the backers, only 1 in 3 ever received their cooler. Since then, angry backers have threatened the company with legal action and physical violence. As of 2017, the Oregon Department of Justice has stepped in to guarantee the fulfillment of the remaining coolers, though they have yet to materialize. The Pebble Watch. Pebble began attracting attention via crowdfunding in 2012. During its first Kickstarter campaign, the original Pebble smartwatch raised more than $10 million with the help of 69,000 backers. Since the original target for that effort was only $100,000, it seemed obvious the market was ripe for what Pebble offered consumers. The Black Friday shopping holiday became more enticing for tech-savvy, deal-conscious consumers when the Pebble Watch arrived on Amazon. Besides merely offering the Pebble, the e-commerce retailer offered a 15% discount on the watch. Pebble's second Kickstarter campaign, which occurred in 2015, broke a record on the first day by raising $1 million in only 49 minutes. A week later, the crowdfunded project became the most funded campaign in Kickstarter's history, racking up more than $13.3 million in pledges. Between all its campaigns, the Pebble Watch earned more than $43 million. But after a series of lackluster holiday seasons, it was clear that the Pebble wasn't making its sales goals. After a few years, the company started searching desperately for a bailout. This came in 2016, when Pebble closed its stores and Fitbit paid $23 million for its remaining intellectual property and a few key employees. Reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow was an educational show for children that ran from 1983 until 2006. The public television series garnered over 200 broadcast awards, including a Peabody Award and 26 Emmy Awards, 11 of which were in the Outstanding Children's Series category. After a very successful run, the show was canceled and its host, LeVar Burton, was wondering what to do with his life. He had a recurring role on Star Trek and got occasional acting gigs, but he still pined for the days of Reading Rainbow. So in May 2014, he initiated one of the most ambitious crowdfunding projects in modern history, intended to bring Reading Rainbow into the digital age. Burton sought to raise $1 million in the course of a month. Investors responded with $6.4 million. In 2016, Burton launched the first big project to emerge from those Kickstarter funds: Skybrary, a subscription-based online library of interactive children's literature. A one-year subscription of the Reading Rainbow Skybrary for a single classroom costs $179 for up to 35 students, or $1,450 per school for up to 350 students. Schools have to apply, but with the money raised on the Kickstarter campaign, the Reading Rainbow Skybrary School program will be gifted to as many as 10,000 classrooms in need. Pono. Pono was a short-lived digital music player, meant specifically for high-quality audio. It was the brainchild of beloved musician Neil Young. His intention was to present songs as they first sound during recorded studio sessions, using high-resolution 24-bit 192 kHz audio instead of the compressed audio inferiority that MP3s offer. Young helped to persuade more than 18,000 people to back Pono Music's Kickstarter in 2015. The company made a portable digital music player called Pono Player, as well as an online store that will sell music downloads at a higher resolution than rivals like Apple's iTunes. Pono Music has been a mission of mine for many years, and I'm more passionate than ever about the prospects for its success, says Young in a statement posted as an update on Kickstarter. In all, the campaign raised $6.2 million. However, reviews of the player were mixed and sales were poor. In 2017, Neil announced that Pono would cease production permanently. Thanks for stopping by and watching this top trending video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.